So now we are ready to install our target system. So this is going to be a Windows 10 operating system, which is a pre-configured VM. We don't have to go through the installation process. And what I wanted to show you is that there's a couple options. So if we install a target system, which you can find in this link here, there is a couple of different resources where you can install a Windows 10 system or Windows Server environment from an ISO, which would require you to go through the entire installation process, or we can use pre-configured and installed virtual machines. Windows 7, 8, or 10 are available on the Microsoft Edge Developer Store. So you can now either go here and then click the link, or Google Microsoft Edge Developer and Windows VMs. This should give you a couple of links that lead you to the Microsoft Edge Developer page. And under Home, Tools, and VMs, you can see that there's a couple of machines that we can select from. So this is really cool, especially if you want to do any red teaming or blue teaming exercises. We have a couple of Windows 7, 8, and 10 VMs that we can download from here. So for our purposes, we want to pick Windows 10 and then pick the platform of choice. So now this is the hypervisor that you're using. I'm using VirtualBox and I'll be downloading VirtualBox. If you're using any other such as VMware, feel free to pick that package and then just go ahead and we'll download the zip file. Save it in the downloads, go ahead and do so. And then this will now take a while. It's gonna be around 7 GB of size. So I'll fast forward and then meet you when we are ready. All right, so once we have downloaded the zip file, you can go ahead and extract it. So I've already done so. You can see my virtualbox.zip file. In your case, if you're using VMware, it might be called Windows 10 VMware.zip. If you extract it, you will end up with a MS-Windows 10 folder. And within that folder, you can see the VMDK file, which is essentially the disk, and also an OVF file, which is basically the configuration package that comes with the VM. Now, just out of curiosity, if you open this up in a text editor, the OVF file is nothing other than just a basic XML structured text file that includes some of the configuration settings that we'll be getting when we import the VM into our hypervisor. Now you can see right away that here virtual system is called MS-Windows 10. We'll also see that it has 1 CPU assigned to it. It has 4 GB of memory assigned to it. So this is basically the way how virtual machines are configured. It's a text file that comes with it, and this is how VirtualBox know what to do with it. So long story short, we can go ahead and add the VM into our VirtualBox manager. In order to do so, we can just go to import. It's also under file, import, go to our location, should be in the downloads, and here's the folder. And what you can do there is you can pick the OVF file. So this is the configuration file the VirtualBox needs in order to know what to do with it. Click open. We can do continue. And this is the overview. This is basically a nicer view of the XML file that we just looked at. We can see that this is the name. We can keep that. It's this number of CPUs, the memory, networking. So we will be needing internet access on this machine. So there's no need to change anything. We need to have this VM be able to reach out to the internet and download a couple things. And so we can see the base folder where it's going to end up. And this is all the default settings that we can leave it to, and just click import. So once this is underway, you'll see this is going to take quite some time. And when this is ready, I'll meet you in the next video where we'll continue the setup and configuration of the VM. All right, and here we are. Here we have our first Windows machine imported into our VirtualBox manager. It's called MS Edge-Windows 10, and we can keep the name, you can rename it, that's fine. All we need to remember is that this is going to be our target system where we'll be downloading and running our attack script on, and then use it further for the analysis and investigation phase. So we can leave most settings as it is as well. Now, the only important thing to keep in mind is it might be a little slow for you if you're only using a single CPU. So if there's any option to increase that, we can go ahead and do so. That definitely will make our user experience a little bit better. So if we click on settings, now up in the systems tab, there's processor, and we can add at least one more CPU if that's available to you. And so before starting it up now, it's really important. One thing to keep in mind is this is a developer-based virtual machine, so there's a limited license included with it. If we go back to the Microsoft developer page, it actually says that this is a machine that expires after 90 days. However, they even recommend setting a snapshot, so when we install the virtual machine, we can roll back to it later again after the expiration days. So that's really great. We can just use it over and over and over again, but it's important to set the first snapshot before starting it up. Now, in order to do so, we can click on the menu item here and pick the option snapshots. You can see there's no snapshots in here yet. Then we just click take. Then we'll take the snapshot and call it something like initial import. And one thing that we can do, because the password on this system is no secret, it's actually part of the Microsoft developer page where we can download it from. And the password for this, that is password with a 0 and an exclamation mark at the end. So this is good to go. We can now create the snapshot, and now this is ready to start it up. In order to do so, you can now here see on the right hand side there's a start symbol, and with this icon we can now click on it. Now this might have taken a couple minutes, but here we are. So here we have the user login prompt. We can type in the password as password with a 0 and an exclamation mark, and then just wait for the system to load. And then once we are there, we'll follow with the next steps and do some of the configuration that we need to do before we can run the attack script. All right, so Windows has started up. You can see the desktop here. The background, it actually shows us the licensing information and also host system name, username, password, and so on. Now, in order to proceed with our preparation of the target system, we need to do a couple of things. The first thing is we want to pause the Windows updates. Second thing is we want to pause and disable Defender settings so they're not going to get in our way. And then we want to drop the installation scripts for sysmon and the attack script onto the system. So in order to go ahead and get the configuration for the Windows updates done, now let's go into settings. And once we are in there, we can go all the way to the bottom and pick update and security, which includes Windows update settings. And the reason why we want to do that is that in the background now Windows is trying to download a whole bunch of stuff. Now you can see that even here it's already running, and we want to avoid that because it's just going to create a whole lot of noise. It is processing a bunch of files. There will be a lot of read and writes and just a lot of noise that will be in our way during the forensic investigation. So to turn off the Windows updates temporarily, we can go to the advanced options here. And then I'm going to disable this one. If we scroll all the way down, there's a menu item called pause updates. So let's activate that. And this will now pause the updates for the next several days. So this is good enough for us. Next thing, we want to disable the Defender settings. In order to go there, we type in something like threat to make the virus and threat protection show up. This is our Defender settings in here. Now there's virus and threat protection settings. Now we click on manage settings. There's a couple of features. So first of all, we want to turn off real-time protection. And it's very important to keep in mind that this is just temporarily. So we need to execute the next script, the attack script, pretty soon, because this will enable itself after a certain amount of time. So don't leave your computer, or don't just shut it down and reboot it after you have disabled the Defender settings, because those will be turned on again. So you need to go back in here again and turn it off. So now we'll also disable cloud deliver protection and the automatic sample submission. And that's it for now. Okay, so those are the two Windows settings that we needed in order to set up the system in a way so that we can run our script. Now the next thing is we need to get our script onto this system. The scripts are actually hosted on the GitHub repository. So on my host system, I've already opened it up here. You can see under github.com/bluecapesecurity/PWF, which stands for Practical Windows Forensics. There is this repository which contains the two scripts that we need. Now we can, to make our things easier, we can just download this repository onto our host system and then share the folder with our virtual machine in order to get the files onto the virtual machine. I found that this is the easier way. I've been trying to mess around with the virtual machine Internet Explorer or Edge browser. Really doesn't work so well. So probably the easiest way is just on your host system now. Open up this page, github.com/bluecapesecurity/PWF. Click on code here and download the zip file. So we'll get the repository downloaded into the zip. Now you can see on my downloads folder, this is the zip file that we now need to get onto our virtual machine. In order to do that, this virtual machine already has VirtualBox guest editions installed, which allows us to share folders with our host system. So we're gonna go up here on the menu item devices and shared folders. And this is where we will add the downloads folder of our host system to share it with our virtual machine. So right here, shared folders, we click on this plus icon, and then we'll select our downloads folder. We'll just click open. You can see here, my username/downloads will be shared with our virtual machine. Click OK and OK again. And then let's double check. Let's go to the Windows Explorer. And where we can find the folder is in Network. I click on Network and VirtualBox Server, VirtualBox Server Downloads. And here we are. These are the files on our host system that we have in our downloads folder. So let's just go ahead and copy and paste the repository. That's all we need. Nothing else required. So now we have the repository on the system. We need to extract it and then run those scripts. In order to extract, we do a right click, extract all, that's fine. Just keep it on the desktop. So here we have the repository. You can see here, there's a couple of folders. First, we need to install the sysmon script. Second, we want to run the attack script, which is based off atomic red team techniques. So let's go into the install sysmon folder. Here's a PS1 file, so that's a PowerShell associated script. Now we need to run this one. And important thing is we need to run it as the administrator. So we click on File and PowerShell and open PowerShell as the administrator. We have to allow PowerShell as administrator to execute. So this is going to load up the PowerShell engine. And so this when we hit tab, it will autocomplete to install-sysmon.ps1. So this is just a script that we need to run now. If we click enter, it will now download sysmon. It will now download a configuration file for sysmon, which is actually the famous configuration file for sysmon on the Swift on Security GitHub repository. And it will then install sysmon with the configuration file, reboot sysmon, and then that was it. At the end, you should see something like this: sysmon verified, and it's running. So that was that. We can now close out this PowerShell prompt, and everything is ready and set up to execute our attack script. Everything is ready and set up to execute our attack script. Let's go into Atomic Red Team and let's execute this art-attack.ps1 script. Now, same thing again, we need to run it as the administrator. Let's go and open up PowerShell administrator here again. Say yes. This is going to execute a script that is going to download the Atomic Red Team framework, and once it's downloaded, it will then execute selected Atomic Red Team techniques, or also called atomics, to simulate a realistic attack that malicious software or threat actors often execute on Windows systems, which is what we are going to investigate after that. Let's do /ART and hit tab to autocomplete. So now we have the art-attack.ps1 script selected. And now if we click enter, we can now execute the attack script. So again, this is going to download and install the Invoke Atomic Red Team framework. This will probably prompt us to install additional dependencies, which is something we need to manually confirm. Now here you can see it's downloading the framework. Okay, so here you can see it's asking us to install a NuGet provider. So yes, we want to do that. Y and hit enter for yes. Now I can see it's downloading additional files. So now if you hit enter, it will show the next logs again and then start the attack simulation. You might have to hit enter to just make it proceed in the background. Sometimes that's not required or necessary, but if you don't see anything happening for a while, then just hit enter and it will then start the atomic execution, as you can see here. So here we have our first atomic test that is going to be executed. Now done executing here, you see the next one executed, done executing here, see the next one executing. So this will go on for a couple more of these atomics and then we should be finished. Now it's a couple more tests that are executing, scheduled tasks, services. Also now a notes window with a pop-up. So this one we don't click on closing the notepad tab, but we can click the pop-up and say okay. All right, so here you can see don't close notepad, but go back in PowerShell. You can see that done executing the last test. So that means the script has successfully finished. All our atomic tests, or I should say also attack techniques, are executed. Now this is considered we consider this now as a compromised environment. We have some attack patterns on there. We have some malware on there. It's friendly malware. It's just a simulated attack. So there's nothing really malicious on there. But now we can treat the system as a compromised system. And in the next steps, we'll now go ahead and actually start with our forensics process that starts with the acquisition of the data. And then we'll move into the analysis part. So stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video.